Hello, it's Vesper. It's nice to see you. I hope you're having a good week. I'm in the process of testing different mics. If I sound really different across my next few videos, I'm sorry. I'll get it sorted out soon. Anyway, about 9 days ago now, the Sims team uploaded a post to the EA forums called Dag Dag to Lag, Improving the Sims 4 Performance. And after reading it, I felt annoyed. So I just wanted to go over it with you and share my thoughts about it all. Obviously, the majority of Simmers are still reeling, and rightfully so, over the news of the sale that took place. Personally, I'm hoping it doesn't go through, at least the Sims portion of the deal. Although I'm not too happy about EA's money lining particular pockets. I'm thinking about touching on that in another video, but for now, my main point is this Dag Dag to Lag article, as well as the sale and previous EA behavior, shows just how out of touch EA is with its Sims players. So let's get into it. Alongside our ongoing efforts to bring you closer to what we're working on with our save file investigations and quality of life roadmap, we wanted to take a moment to share some behind the scenes info about how we make The Sims 4 the best experience it can be for everyone. Our team puts love and care into each pack and update we create, running meticulous performance tests to ensure they run smoothly on across many platforms, including min-spec machines. Here's the fun part. We've learned a lot from our quality assurance testing that can help you make the most of your game. We have advice on how you can build, utilize cheats, and experience the game in more performant ways. This is important information for all players, but especially those who may be exceeding hardware limitations and heavily utilizing in-game systems, as this increases the chances of resulting in error codes, lots failing to load, or other memory-related issues. Read on to learn more. I just want you to keep in mind that they wanted to take a moment to share some behind the scenes info about how they make The Sims 4 the best experience it can be for everyone. And yet, in this very next paragraph, they pivot to, we've learned a lot from our quality assurance testing that can help you make the most of your game. So which is it? Are they going to make it the best experience for us, or are we going to make it the best experience for us? That probably sounds a little nitpicky, but just wait. In this next paragraph, they wrote, signs that indicate you should make these changes. You may want to make these changes in your game when you see things like long loading times, various error codes when saving or loading your game, or when you experience lagging and freezing in either build by or live mode. If you can hear your computer struggling, it's probably time to take some of the steps below. And then they wrote, keeping your system up to date. No matter what hardware you use, it is always best practice to remember to keep your system software and drivers up to date. I know not everyone is tech savvy, but I'd like to think that most people who play video games know to keep their systems up to date. That being said, I know not everyone is that way, and I know lots of Sims players do try to play The Sims on MacBooks or regular computers that aren't gaming computers. So it makes sense, and I'm not going to be a complete hater over this. I know that sometimes people don't help themselves. And I don't think it's problematic for EA to gently remind people to ensure their stuff is up to date. This is where things start to get weird. Technical explanation on performance. Behind your computer's hardware, two main things affect how well The Sims 4 runs. How much the game has to draw on screen, how many interactive objects are in play. Every visible object, piece of furniture, or part of the environment takes power to display. The more the game has to show at once, like nearby lots or heavily decorated builds, the more your computer has to work. Similarly, each object that Sims can use, like stoves or sinks, takes processing power even when not being used. The more complex or versatile an object is, the more it impacts performance. For example, kitchen counters are surprisingly heavy on performance because Sims can do so much with them. I think we all know the more stuff there is in a game, the more performance can suffer, but I'm of the opinion that the leading life sim should be able to handle a load that allows lots of customization and variety between lots, especially when you want your lot to reflect your sim's story. And games can always be optimized. Keep in mind how many online games there are where computers and networks are constantly communicating to one another with minimal interference, minimal bugs, minimal lag, and minimal crashes. And when these things are present, they're eradicated quickly. If anything I've shared hasn't convinced you, performant lot building best practices. There's no one way to build a lot, but if you're ever curious on how you can build a more performant lot, here are some helpful tips and guidelines. Wallpapers. Multiple types of wallpapers on a lot will impact performance more, especially wallpaper with edges. I think by edges, they mean the wallpapers that have like maybe a wood panel or like perhaps brick in the center of the wallpaper and then some type of paint on the edge or something like that. You know what I mean? Mirrors. Multiple mirrors in a single room will impact performance if their reflections are bouncing off each other. Doors that have glass, transoms, or side lights will impact performance more. The more of these a door has, the more impact it has. For those who don't know, transoms are just like windows on the door. So sometimes doors will have maybe two rectangular little windows on the tops. Sometimes they'll be on the sides. Portal objects. Portal objects are any object that transitions a sim from one room or level to another. Large numbers of portal objects increase sim rooting time. Portal objects include doors, arches, fence gates, platforms, ladders, stairs, and more. The more portal objects a sim must traverse to get somewhere, the more performance is impacted. Pools and platforms. Platforms are much like pools, as sims can get in and out of a pool or traverse a platform at any location, so they have a lot of portals. The larger the pool or platform, the more portals. The smaller the pool or platform is, the more performant it is. So I guess they're saying if a pool or platform is smaller, it'll work better or it'll harm your game less. Note, fountains are quite performant because you can't get in or out of them. Fridges and computers. These have high simulation costs because they have so many interactions. Kitchen counters are an additional example due to the amount of hidden autonomous interactions available when using them. The more unique items used on a lot, the higher impact on performance. Clutter, lots of different pictures, lots of carpets, window types, light types, plants, etc. all add up. Ponds, the larger and more complex a pond is, the less performant it is. Small ponds with simple shapes are very performant. Large ponds with irregular shapes are less performant. Small ponds are about 8 by 8 tiles. Large ponds are about 19 by 19. Simple means smoother edges and simpler shapes like an oval or circle. Number of sims. Be mindful of the number of sims on screen at any given time. The more active sims in a lot, the less performant your game will become as more resources are used. Large lots. Whether a lot is big or small, it has the same object budget. If you are building a large lot and want to keep it performant, our tip is to try to find a way to fill it in using creative object placement that isn't dense or tile designs. Decorations cannot be as dense as they can be on a small lot. Occluders and visible objects. When you load a lot with other lots around it, objects inside buildings on the other lots aren't visible. This is because the solid walls of the building act as occluders. This is because the solid walls of the building act as occluders. If these objects are placed outside of the house walls, then there is nothing to occlude them when loading into another lot and the game has to draw them, which can result in a dip in performance. Most games work this way. Okay. Glass walls, large glass windows, glass roofs also do not act as occluders because you can see what's happening behind them. Seeing objects when loaded into another lot isn't problematic unless a nearby lot is very full with objects. Cheats. Cheats are another performance variable to consider. Remember that cheats can impact your gameplay negatively if your specs aren't high enough, and it's always best practice to back up your saves before trying any cheats, especially those that remove restrictions. I scrolled up a bit just so you can see everything they've included. Just being clear, don't use multiple wallpapers in a home that you're decorating. Keep one mirror for room, which, I mean, there's already not too much for gallery walls, so I like to use mirrors for gallery walls. So that's pretty restrictive for me. I guess if your build has like denseness to it with clutter and, a variety of wallpapers. Don't have a back door, maybe? Oh, and don't have doors, arches, fence gates, platforms, ladders, stairs, and pools all on one lot. Oh, and though the game comes with so many modular counters, don't use them to make big counter spaces because it'll wreck your game. And computers have high simulation costs, so I guess each sim in your household can't have their own computer. Something else that aggravated me here was number of sims, because I think when you load into a lot, there's something like 20 sims that can be there. So if you're at a nightclub or a library or whatever, naturally up to 20 sims can load in. So if cheats are something that can harm your performance, what are you supposed to do when you load into a non-residential lot and there are like 20 sims there? Are you supposed to just go home? All I'm saying is this entire post reeks of we are not optimizing The Sims 4. You need to optimize how you play. Who doesn't love using the bigger lots with newer lot types? For example, I love using the bigger lots to make apartment buildings. Some people like to make, resorts now with adventure awaits and stuff like that. And there are probably one or two big lots per world. And what, are we supposed to just ignore them or build them but not clutter them? And I'm sorry, but if you're using big lots to make, I don't know, resorts or especially apartments like me, do they just not get doors because it ruins the performance of the game? Sorry if everything I'm saying is all over the place. This video is not scripted or anything, so I'm just sort of throwing my thoughts at you as they come. This part where they wrote, the more unique items used on a lot, the higher impact on performance. Clutter, lots of different pictures, lots of carpets, window types, light types, plants, etc. all add up. Listen, some people play The Sims 4 just to build. If players can't place the combination of build BIMO items that they want when the majority of what they do with the game is building, that's not like buyer side. Like that's not the player's problem. That is your problem as a company. And let's not forget, at the beginning of this post, they said that they wanted to share with us how they optimize the game, essentially. Paraphrasing, but you get the point. And yet, they're telling us how to fix the game for ourselves. And, saying whether a lot is big or small, it has the same object budget is insane. That's insane. What's the point of larger lots then? What are they for? Our tip is to try to find a way to fill it in using creative object placement that isn't dense or tile designs. So they want us to play Tetris to fill up our larger lots rather than them optimizing the game so that larger lots work for a larger amount of items. And what does that mean? That isn't dense or tile designs. What does that mean, or tile designs? I'm so confused. Like, what? And down here, when they're talking about occluders and visible objects, they really wanted to throw in the most games work this way. Yeah, sure. Most games have this sort of system, but the key is that they work. They do what they're supposed to do. Moving on to the last paragraph, they wrote things that will affect your memory and performance and might result in bugs if overutilized. There are many tools The Sims 4 provides the player to enhance creative options. What does that mean? What tools are they talking about? I'll need to look into this. We don't know your exact software, however, and overutilizing these tools can result in poor performance or memory issues, like corruption or failure to load issues. Mods are another aspect to consider when playing performantly, as we can't account for their resource costs when developing content for The Sims 4, as they're developed and maintained by the community. Do you know how many players play without mods of any variety? I'm talking players who don't even use clothed CC. I'm talking they play as vanilla can be, and they still experience bugs, lag, their games crash. Right now in The Sims 4, all my mods are moved out because I've been making content without mods. There are still bugs, there are still lags, and my game still crashes. There's a bug right now where painting canvases that were created with the paint by reference feature disappear entirely when you move them. The physical canvas doesn't disappear, but the art disappears. The Sims 4 as a game needs to be completely torn down and rebuilt from the bottom up. EA owes this to their player base. They can afford it a dozen times over. Anyway, to continue, they wrote, "Please use these tools at your own risk and responsibly. These are also cumulative, meaning if you're doing all of these, then that adds up. That's why sometimes bugs around crashes, freezes, and failing to load things can be difficult on our end to investigate. Each one can be very dependent on how it came about." Then they go into graphic settings, the best practices to be aware of your settings in relation to your system's capabilities, and don't increase graphic settings beyond your system's limitations. It makes sense to touch on that because some people really don't know. Some people just aren't the most tech savvy. Such is life. And next, they write about how build cheats like vertical move cheats, scale cheats, or even just BB move objects on impacts performance. I guess they alter something called the nav mesh, which is what the game uses to know where the objects are going. But players playing the leading life sim shouldn't need a cheat to clutter their builds properly anyway. But I guess it doesn't matter that you need a cheat to clutter builds properly when the developers don't want you using clutter anyway. Next, they wrote maximum sim count game options. This is an option in the household manager menu. By default, this is set to 80 sims for played households and a save. This is best for players with minimum spec computers, and honestly, healthiest for all computers. Okay. However, mid to high-end computers can reasonably upgrade to 150 max sims. Choosing the 200 or unlimited options are things we've given you the option to do, but are not recommended in most instances. Please do this at your own risk. So in this game, that is not an online game, you can't have up to 150 to 200 or more total sims. But there are games with online multiplayer capabilities where there are more than 100 to 200 players on a map at any given time, and these games are less buggy than The Sims 4. There are even other games by EA where there are an upwards of 100 to 200 players in a map. Look at Battlefield 2042. That's an EA game, and it supports up to 128 players per match. And yet, you can't have more than 20 sims on a lot. You can't mix and match too many portals or clutter objects or fill out larger lots in The Sims 4 without the game bugging out, crashing, corrupting. What? Next, they talk about super stuffed lots again. How much you can pack into your lots really depends on your specific hardware. If you fill every lot to the brim and skip the performance tips here, you run a higher risk of encountering slower performance crashes or other issues. There's no single right amount as every setup is different. If you find that you can build lots with full detailed spaces and your hardware can handle it, great. The key is finding a good balance that keeps your game running smooth. Next, they wrote, have too many farm animals. Chickens, mini goats, and critters like these are super cute. However, depending on your hardware, having too many, not 10 to 15, but in the, hi baby, hi. Sorry, not 10 to 15, but in the 30 to 100 plus range can cause the game to lag heavily, though we have made changes to try to decrease the effects of this. Keep in mind that this is the first paragraph where they have talked about how they have made changes to try to decrease the performance issues. Keep that in mind. Mods that allow increased sim cap limits. We have a limit on how many sims can appear at a time in a neighborhood for performance reasons. If you increase this using mods, this is happening at your own risk and can greatly impact performance and memory. I don't know the limit for how many sims can be in a neighborhood at a time, But keep in mind, EA has other games with online capabilities where there are more than 100 players in a lobby at once. Not just characters, but real players, computers, and networks communicating to each other. And when there are bugs and lag and crashes happen, these things are fixed, the game is optimized, and players are usually left satisfied. Screenshots folder, custom music, and mods. The more content you have in these folders, the more content that needs to be loaded and run. Having an overabundance of content on certain hardware specs can result in performance and memory issues. This is particularly relevant to mods as much as we love them. Running other apps and programs. Having other resource-heavy programs running on your computer while playing The Sims 4 can impact performance. Closing those extra apps can free up resources and make your game run more smoothly, so your Sims can thrive without any hiccups. You can easily see any programs that are configured to start running as soon as your computer does for Windows here and here for Mac. So now, in order to play The Sims 4, you can't have your Spotify opening as soon as you boot up your computer. You can't have your Discord opening as soon as you boot up your computer. This can unfortunately be boiled down to they're sort of asking us to change our routine and computer habits in order to play The Sims 4. Other instances. There are probably other ways a game can become inefficient and have memory issues based uniquely on how it's played. As always, the best advice is to create judiciously based on your computer hardware. What? As always, the best advice is to create judiciously based on your computer hardware. Listen to the game. If it starts chugging or your cooling fans start ramping up, it isn't happy. That sentence is jarring. Sorry to get off topic. Then they wrote, to conclude, ultimately, The Sims 4 offers an incredible range of creative possibilities. Nuh-uh. Not after what we just read. And we love seeing the unique worlds you build and stories you tell, just with, limited windows, limited stairs, limited counters, limited clutter, limited household members, limited pools. However, every creative choice comes with a performance cost, and understanding those limits helps ensure your game stays fun and stable. By balancing creativity with moderation and keeping your hardware in mind, you'll enjoy smoother gameplay and fewer headaches, crashes, and load times. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out in our technical issues section of the Sims forums here for additional assistance. Even after that entire post, I'm still trying to find where they showed how they make The Sims 4 the best experience it can be for everyone, because all I got was how we can make the game the best experience for ourselves. I just can't believe that EA published a blog post talking about how their game isn't working properly due to how it's being played. And how it's being played is largely how it is intended to be played. It's no wonder the Sims fandom is full of high sodium simmers who are constantly looking for the next simulation game. I think that while we all love The Sims and its potential, we just can't ignore how we've been ignored and gaslit over the last decade. And for EA to post something like this after all the backlash they've received regarding the sale, out of touch isn't even enough of a concept to convey EA. Anyway, that's my little rant. Thank you so much for listening to me yap. If you'd like, let me know how you feel about EA's post in the comments. I'm a newer creator, so a like and or kind comment goes a long way if you've enjoyed my video. I have so much planned for my channel. If you'd like to see more of my stuff, remember to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.